Hi, as most of you know, I'm Mark Betteridge, and I would like to talk to you about Covenant House and my role with it, and talk to you about a very important fundraiser that's coming up.
I'm Tristan Clausen, Associate Manager of Corporate Foundation Community Giving at Covenant House Vancouver. I oversee the funds coming in from corporate foundation and community giving entities in the City of Vancouver. So, the kind of estimate about the number of homeless youth that are on the streets of Vancouver any given night is anywhere from 500 to 1,000 youth. It's a myth that, everybody, well, especially youth who are on the street, chose to be homeless. They're lazy, they don't want to work. Nobody actually chooses to be homeless. Many of the youth that we see are fleeing, some kind of situation. They're being abused, they're fleeing an abusive foster care situation, they're being abused sexually, physically, emotionally, and they literally have nowhere else to go. They're making a conscious decision that being on the street is the safest option than staying at that place where they're at. So that's why we exist, is just for those youth. They have nowhere else to go, they don't know where else to turn, but they're making that decision that being on the street's the safest option.
I'd like to tell you why I got involved in Covenant House in the first place, which was back in 1996, just before Covenant House Vancouver was set up. I had a family member who, as a teenager, got into some serious trouble as a young offender in Ontario, and frankly it scared the hell out of me, and I didn't know who to turn to. A friend of mine steered me to Covenant House in Toronto, and the woman who was running it at the time, Ruth DaCosta, an amazing woman, guided me, and she gave me all kinds of good physical, mental, spiritual support for this whole situation, and it helped immensely. And we all survived the ordeal and came out quite well on the other side of it. Not long after that, I was contacted by someone who works for Ruth, or worked for her at the time, and said, we're setting up shop in Vancouver. Would you like to join? Would you like to help us set it up? And how could I say no to that? This was like a divine intervention, quite frankly. So I said, of course I will. And I had the privilege of sitting on the founding board, finding out how this worked, being on the board with some far more sophisticated and knowledgeable people than I was at the time. But I learned. I stayed on the board. I was on the board in total for 12 years, and the last 4 years as chair of the board. That's how I got involved, and that really is my spiritual connection to all of this. It's very easy to be cynical about seeing youth on the street. There's too much begging on the street, and I have no doubt that there are some imposters. But I can tell you from what I know and what I recall from when I was actively involved on the board of Covenant House, that this is real, and that's not something that can be disputed, unfortunately. So obviously I'm sitting here because I am asking you to financially support Covenant House. And I know at this time of year, it's an expensive time of the year for everybody anyway. I know you're going to get hit by a lot of very worthwhile charitable asks. But the reason I've supported Covenant House, in addition to my personal reasons, is that nearly all of the money that's raised is from private sources. It is not a government-backed organization, which is a philosophy I strongly believe in. It's nearly all privately raised. There are, I believe, more than 50,000 donors behind Covenant House Vancouver now, and I'm asking you to step up now and support this organization, this private organization, because it's very efficient, it's very effective, it solves an enormous problem. To help raise the money, there's a group of us who are going to sleep out and get cold and wet, I hope, because that's all part of the deal. In fact, you can come down and watch if you're crazy enough. We're going to be sleeping out at night in the back lane behind Covenant House, and I did this last year. It's a cathartic experience. You start to get a sense of what it's really like to be out there at night in the cold. We were lucky last year it wasn't wet. We think this year it might be. But that's what I'm asking you to do. That's why I'm doing this. This is a personal request. This is why I'm doing this. I really hope that you feel you can support it, and all the information is available to help you make the donation. So that's my ask of you.